Today, we're going to do something a little different. We're taking a massive corporate disaster and turning it into a fantastic learning opportunity. We're going to break down how a single error ended up costing a company $2 million. And, this is the really important part, how the right kind of investigation could have stopped it from ever happening in the first place. Let's dive in.
Yeah, $2 million. And get this, that wasn't profit. That was the cost of one single error in their billing system. It's just a staggering number, right? It tells you immediately that the stakes are incredibly high when these complex systems fail.
And right here, this is our first huge clue. So the technical teams jumped in, they patched the system, and sure, it was fixed. But they stopped there. They fixed the what, but they never bothered to ask why. This is such a classic mistake. You're treating the symptom, but you're completely ignoring the disease.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll dissect that $2 million mistake. Then we'll get into why quick fixes are so often a trap. From there, I'll walk you through a 5-phase investigation that gets to the real root cause. Then we'll see the massive impact of going proactive. And finally, we'll talk about how to build a system that's truly resilient.
So let's start by putting this $2 million failure under the microscope. What really went down here? So the problem just spiraled out of control really fast. Suddenly, 47,000 customers were affected. But here's the second critical failure. In all that chaos, no one took a step back to map out exactly where the process broke down from a user's point of view. It's like they saw the fire, but they had no blueprint of the building. You know, this story isn't unique. Research on Archive actually shows that legacy systems are really prone to these kinds of cycles. You have teams working in their own little silos, so nobody owns the big picture. The pressure is always to just restore service now. And that leads to temporary fixes, the same incidents happening over and over, and a huge mountain of technical debt. So let's dig a little deeper into why that first impulse, the quick fix, is so often just a trap waiting to be sprung. This iceberg visual is the perfect way to think about this. The quick fixes, rebooting a server, patching some software, that's just the tip of the iceberg, the part you can see. The real culprits, the things that are actually going to sink you, are hidden deep below the surface. We're talking flawed requirements, gaps in your processes, and much deeper systemic issues. True root cause analysis means you have to look at the whole picture. And even when teams try to find the root cause, a lot of the common methods, like the 5 whys, can really fall short. That same research we mentioned points out that these methods are often just too simple for how complex systems are today. They rely too much on human judgment, which can be biased, and they just can't keep up with the massive amounts of data involved. And this brings us to the final painful result. Millions of dollars spent on refunds. Customer trust completely shattered, and yet the core vulnerability, that huge gap in their automated checks, was never actually addressed. The company paid the price, but they didn't learn the lesson. So how do we avoid this trap? Well, let's shift gears and get to the solution, a structured 5-phase investigation that really gets it right. Here's the roadmap. It starts simple, clearly define the main event. From there, you map out everything that could cause it and all the potential impacts. Then you gather data from multiple sources, you pinpoint exactly where your defenses are weak, and finally, you embed those learnings right back into your system. This right here is a brilliant illustration of phase 2. It's called the Bowtie Method, and it is an incredible tool for this. See how on the left, you map all the potential causes. In the center, that's the main event. And then on the right, you map out all the cascading consequences. It just lays out the entire risk pathway for you visually. It's fantastic. For phase 3, the key idea is triangulation. And no, you don't just rely on incident reports. You have to combine them with everything else. User feedback, audit data, talking to your staff, whatever you can get your hands on. The real insights, the aha moments, they happen when these different data sources overlap and start telling you the same story. This all leads us to phase 4, finding the control gaps. It's a pretty simple idea. A control gap is just a risk pathway that has no defense on it, no prevention, no detection, absolutely nothing. It is an unlocked door, plain and simple, and it shows you exactly where you're most vulnerable. Now, when an organization really makes this shift and adopts a proactive mindset, the results aren't just theoretical. They are measurable, and they are massive. Just look at these numbers from the Archive study on a global finance company that did this.
a 45% reduction in major incidents, a 45.5% drop in their change failure rate, and they could deploy new code almost 47% faster. These are not small tweaks, you guys. These are transformative gains.
And this quote from Jeffrey Hamill just says it all. Proactive risk management isn't just about preventing bad things from happening anymore. When you understand your system this deeply, you can actually move faster and innovate with more confidence. Risk management becomes a real driver for performance.
This is what it looks like in practice, a dynamic risk in motion dashboard. It's not some static report that's outdated the second you print it. It is a live, integrated view of your risks, your controls, and your incidents that lets you make smart, real-time decisions.
All right, so how do you bring all this into your own organization? Let's talk about the final and maybe the most crucial piece of the puzzle, building a truly resilient system.
Because here's the thing, you can have the best tools and processes in the world, but resilience isn't really a tool, it's a culture. It has to start at the very top with executive sponsorship, and it has to be embedded in the DNA of the organization, in everyone's role.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about for your own teams. When things go wrong, are you just patching the leak? Or are you actually re-engineering the plumbing so it never breaks that way again? The good news is there's a clear path to get started. By applying a unified workflow like the one we've talked about, you can go from a complex, messy investigation to a clear business impact statement in as little as 10 days. The tools are there. The real question is, are you ready to use them?